Walter White is initially introduced as an ordinary chemistry teacher. However, over time, the psychological changes he undergoes lead him to become a deep and complex crime lord. In this video, we will examine Walter White's ego development, the impact of crime on his personality, and his ultimate transformation. We can better understand the character of Walter White through Niccolò Machiavelli's book The Prince. Machiavelli argues that for a leader to seize and maintain power, they must be ruthless and pragmatic. According to him, a leader must act in a results-oriented manner rather than adhering to moral values to sustain their power. Walter White's entry into and rise within the criminal world closely parallels Machiavelli's views. When Walter White starts producing meth after his cancer diagnosis to secure his family's future, he initially views this decision as a moral obligation. However, over time, he becomes captivated by the allure of gaining power and control within this business. As Machiavelli advises leaders, Walter is not hesitant to use any means necessary to gain power. For example, while initially motivated solely by the need to make money, Walter gradually resorts to more brutal and ruthless methods to eliminate his rivals, solidify his power, and establish a strong foothold in the criminal world. Walter's relationship with Gustavo Fring aligns with Machiavelli's strategies for power struggles. Gustavo appears to Walter as both a threat and an opportunity. As Machiavelli emphasizes in his teachings, Walter strategically maneuvers to overcome this powerful rival. By eliminating Gustavo, Walter simultaneously strengthens his own power and takes the necessary harsh steps to maintain his control. According to Machiavelli, for a leader to be successful, they must be willing to deceive, act hypocritically, and mislead their enemies when necessary. This pragmatic approach ensures that the leader remains strong in all circumstances. Similarly, Walter White consistently uses duplicity and deception against both his family and his rivals in the criminal underworld. While presenting himself as an innocent father and husband to his family, Walter is actually building a growing criminal empire centered on meth production and distribution. His dishonesty towards his family is directly related to his desire to gain and maintain power. As Machiavelli advises leaders, Walter seeks to achieve his goals by deceiving those around him. In the criminal world, Walter frequently employs tactics of deception and misdirection to defeat his rivals. For example, in his relationships with characters like Jesse Pinkman and Gustavo Fring, he manipulates them for his own purposes and resorts to betrayal when necessary. Machiavelli advocates that leaders must be ruthless and cold-blooded when required. Walter embraces this principle, using those around him for his own gain without hesitation. Machiavelli's concept that the ends justify the means is embodied in Walter White's personality. The methods Walter employs as he rises in the criminal world illustrate how he transforms into a prince. Betrayal, deception, and hypocrisy become central strategies in Walter's pursuit of power and in his efforts to retain it. Machiavelli argues that it is more effective for a leader to be feared than loved by the people. This is because fear reduces the risk of disloyalty and strengthens the people's allegiance to the leader. Walter White, too, prefers to consolidate his power by instilling fear rather than seeking respect in the criminal world. Walter's adoption of the Heisenberg persona reflects his quest for fear and power. Heisenberg represents a harsher, more intimidating version of Walter. As Machiavelli suggests, Walter succeeds in controlling those around him by instilling fear through this new identity. For instance, his ruthless behavior towards rivals like Tuco Salamanca and Gustavo Fring helps Walter consolidate his power and establish his place in the criminal world. We also see that Walter tries to balance fear and respect in his relationships with his family. In his interactions with his wife, Skylar, and his son, Walter Jr., Walter acts with a desire to protect them, but does not hesitate to assert his power over them. Machiavelli argues that leaders should act strategically even towards their loved ones. Walter's behavior towards his family reflects this strategic approach. In conclusion, Walter White's personality and rise in the criminal world closely mirror the strategies Machiavelli wrote about in his works on power and politics. Walter acts in a manner consistent with Machiavelli's teachings during his pursuit of power and his efforts to maintain it. Deception, hypocrisy, fear-mongering, and pragmatism are the core methods Walter adopts alongside his Heisenberg identity. Ultimately, Walter White is a complex character who embodies all the qualities Machiavelli desired in a leader. Driven by a desire to gain and maintain power, Walter is unafraid to push moral boundaries and make strategic moves in line with Machiavelli's teachings. Walter's personality, which can be seen as Machiavelli's prince, provides a strong framework for understanding how he transformed into a crime lord and which methods he adopted in the process. Walter White's story can be considered a modern reflection of Machiavelli's theories on power. Ruthlessness, pragmatism, fear-mongering, and hypocrisy are the cornerstones of Walter's success. However, this success ultimately leads to both his internal and external downfall. As Machiavelli emphasizes, the pursuit of power and control can lead to great victories as well as inevitable tragedies. Walter White stands as a modern example of this tragedy.